What is going on, everyone? So in this week's video, I want to talk about the importance of purposefully engaging your senses when it comes to photography. And this is something that I find to be very important when I go on my trips, especially the first day or two of a trip when I'm adjusting to this new environment that I find myself in. And it's something that allows me to find subjects, it allows me to spark that sense of curiosity that leads to other sorts of things in the next several days of the trip. And the thing about our senses is that we have this degree of autopilot that we just kind of cruise around in, where if you're not actively engaging your senses, you're taking things in, but maybe not to the full degree that we can. And in some ways, perhaps it's a little bit like the old saying of when was the last time you thought about breathing, right? Because it just happens, you just breathe. But when you actually think about it, then you actually draw attention to the fact that you're breathing, and then you control things a little bit more. And so it's a little bit like that. So to kind of get this conversation going, I want to tell a little story about a trip to Costco this past spring that kind of relates to the core of this whole issue. So my wife and I were going to go get some of these outdoor area rugs to put on the back deck. And they're pretty big, they're rolled up, so they're these long rugs, and we had two of them, so we put them on a flat cart. And I was kind of near the back of the Costco, and my wife wanted to go check out some other stuff, and I didn't want to get in the way of people. It's kind of, you know, I don't want to be tripping people and stuff, so I just kind of find an area where I can pull off to the side where I'm not going to get into anyone's way. And the area I found that was pretty good was this aisle that has all these palm trees and fruit trees and these big bags of soil and all kinds of other stuff. And so I'm just sitting there, I'm just kind of like, you know, up against these palm trees. And what's interesting is that I noticed this immediate sense of calm where, you know, off to my left, the hustle bustle of Costco, to the right, just the greenery and the trees. And there was something about being among the greenery that immediately made things so much more calm. It seemed like time just kind of slowed down a little bit. So it was, you know, being surrounded by all these plants, these big bags of garden soil, just that earthy smell. And I was immediately aware that I felt more calm. But then when I start engaging my senses, I'm like, oh yeah, it's that earthy scent. That right there is really contributing. And there's something deep within us where when we are out in nature, it leads to a greater sense of calm. There's this feeling of this is, you know, where we belong. And I think that's also part of the process of engaging your senses when you're in the field, because you tie into this, whatever brain wiring we have from our evolutionary past. And so when I'm in the field, usually the first day or two, I'm tired from traveling, I'm tired from getting up really early, doing the really long drive to get to where I am, and suddenly dropped into this new environment. And then basically need to hit the ground running and then start, you know, working because I have a week or so in the field. But that first day or two is a little bit tricky to adapt to this new scenario. So what I found helpful for me is to purposefully engage my senses in a way that helps to tie into that feeling that we have when we are in nature. And sometimes it's a matter of you know, sniffing a tree, which sounds crazy, but hang with me on this. So in Zine, ponderosa pines, these big, powerful, huge pine trees, you know, powerful trees, I don't know, they're big trees. They smell like vanilla. It smells amazing. So I always make sure I go up to one of these pine trees and give it a sniff. And then there's this sense of calm. Going over to a cold sandstone wall, simply putting my hand on that wall. And there's something invigorating about that. It's almost as though you feel nature around. I mean, yes, literally I'm feeling nature around me, but it feels like you're tying into something greater. And I think it's just triggering whatever it is in our brain from our evolutionary past, simply by being in this environment. And in this place that might seem a bit hostile at first, softens a little bit and it feels more inviting. I know that there's been studies about when people are out in the forest, like blood pressure drops, stress drops, and so things along those lines. And so there's that effect that happens, but there's also the effect of when you slow down and when you engage your senses, you start to notice those small details around you. And so that's another thing where I'll stop, I'll purposely engage my senses, I'll sniff the air, I'll feel the breeze on my arm, I'll touch my hand against a sandstone wall. And then you start seeing all these opportunities that are around you, things that I may have otherwise walked right past, but I am more aware of them. And so this might be helpful for you guys, just in terms of engaging those senses, becoming more aware of what's around you, and then perhaps that leading to feeling more a part of the environment, and then also being able to identify subjects and kind of start that cycle of finding great stuff. But hopefully this was useful. But I want to thank everyone for watching. We'll see you around next time.